Hi, welcome to the show. My name's Jesse Goldberg, and my guest today is the one and the only Casey Kelly.
Hi.
And you've been here before.
A couple of times.
But this time you've written a book.
I have indeed.
You've written a book. And
yes.
Is this the first book you ever wrote?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
So
says so in my bio.
How was it? How was it writing a book compared to writing songs?
I don't think this is the usual way one writes a book.
This isn't about your life.
And it's not about my life.
It is about your life, though.
Although I have a lot of stories in there that I used
right.
since I'm trying to tell my theories on songwriting.
I should hold the book up. The book is called The Art of Songwriting.
Yeah. And
it's an Idiot's Guide.
The Complete Idiot's Guide.
Yeah, this is like the Dummy's Guide, right? But it's an idiot guide. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
The same, only different.
I read some of it. It's it's pretty good.
Well, thanks.
Here's my place mark.
I
see where I was reading it.
I see. All right. the old Kleenex place mark in your book.
So before we go on with this, let's talk about you for a second. Casey's had cuts by George Strait and Kenny Rogers and Dottie West and there goes your CD.
I told you it would fall out.
Okay. And who else? Name some more. A lot of them. You got them all over your wall. Helen Reddy.
Yeah.
Tanya Tucker.
Tanya, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Come on, blow your own horn here. Who's some of the other people?
Well, Helen Reddy.
I said Helen Reddy.
America.
America, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Not many people have America.
You said TG. Did you say TG Shepherd?
No, TG Shepherd.
That was one of our number ones. Shoot, another Kenny Rogers thing besides the duet. There's lots. What you know?
Well, you wrote "Soon" with Bob Regan, right?
Yeah.
And who'd you write? Anyone? I feel sorry for anyone who isn't me tonight. Who would that?
Julie Didier is given credit for.
Okay, Julie Didier.
Co-writing that.
All right.
One,
And
yes.
when you first started, though,
yes,
you're from like New Orleans, right?
Baton Rouge mostly. I lived
Rouge.
in New Orleans also.
Okay, but you first started. You were a signed artist for Electric Records.
Yeah, that's
Here's one of your two records that we dug out of the archive.
That was all done in L.A.
Really?
Yes.
How did that come about? Before we get into the book part, how did this come about? You get this. This is one of your two record.
It's a long story.
Make it shorter.
Oh well, that's what I'm going to try to do.
Okay.
Yes, left Baton Rouge, went to New York. Went from New York, moved from New York with a group out to Los Angeles. The group immediately broke up. I ended up getting a job with Tom Rush and playing the Troubadour out there. And then he asked me to sign on as his regular guitarist. So moved back to the East Coast. And after a couple of years, I turned up with diabetes. And so I decided I'd made friends with a producer named Joe Wizard in Los Angeles, and we talked about making a record. And so I called him and said, I think it's time for me to start making my records. And I went back out and made a record for Warner Brothers, and they released a single. And
Warner Brothers?
Yes.
Is that this one?
No.
This is on Elektra?
No.
I don't have that one?
You don't have it.
Does it exist?
Yeah.
I'm missing a Casey Kelly. I thought there's only two of them.
Well, you've got several records you haven't heard.
All right. Okay.
Anyway, that deal went asunder, and then I went to A&M Records, and once again was signed mostly for my songs. And we had a group called the Louisiana Band, and we made some records at A&M. And then I went to as a solo and got some big time management.
Who's your manager?
Schiffman and Larson, and Todd Schiffman and Larry Larson. They had Poco at the time, and Jimmy Messina came in while I was just getting signed there, and brought in a couple of 8-inch, quarter-inch reels, quarter-inch tape reels of a project he'd just done with Kenny Loggins. And, and that was the first Loggins and Messina album.
That was a smash record.
It was huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
Danny's song on it.
It did.
Right.
It did. And I ended up opening a bunch of shows for them. Actually, for everybody who was playing in the early '70s, I opened shows for everybody.
What label were they on?
Who?
Loggins and Messina.
They were on CBS.
Okay.
Yep.
So you were allowed to do that? They mixed the artists like that?
Oh yeah, it was their show, and I was with the same management, and so we did that.
So Electro Records was kind of a cool thing. I mean, it had the Doors, it had Harry Chapin maybe?
Yeah, Harry Chapin was the big deal.
Had
at
Tom
the
Rush,
time.
do you remember before? Judy
Tom-
Collins?
Yeah.
Trying to remember, but
Yeah.
the Doors was a
Bread.
big one. Bread was on Electro?
Bread was there, yeah.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah.
That was like the
Aztec
almost like a
two-step.
folk label,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
well, very much. It came out of that. Jack Holzman was very enamored of what Vanguard Records had done, and that was strictly folk.
Right.
So he patterned his label after that, and if I run into him, he's going to be unhappy with me. But that's the truth. And so yeah, that's what was happening at the time, and that was the time of the singer-songwriter, which
Right.
was sort of folk singer-songwriter. James Taylor, Jackson Brown.
Right.
Yep. So that's what they decided I was, and that's what that's what this first record I got was singer-songwriter kind of stuff.
Yeah, was this the second one on Electro or the first
No,
one?
that was the first.
This is the first one?
Yep.
The other one was the second one. And then after that, you didn't have any more record deals, right? After the two? on
After
Electro?
those,
You turned into strictly a songwriter?
after
or?
those two, well, I'll tell you, everywhere I went to try to get a record deal, they'd listen to songs and they'd say, "Hey, I'm going to send somebody over there. Sign him up for publishing," and I was there trying to get a record deal, and I started getting cuts, and I realized that people would rather probably hear other people singing my songs.
Well, you sang them pretty
And,
good. I mean,
I
these
thought
records
I
are
did.
pretty good.
I write them all for me to sing, and then.
So what happened with what was your first cut from an outside cut?
Oh my goodness, that was way back.
That was before the record deal.
Oh yeah.
What was the first song that you heard somebody else do that was like on the radio or something like that?
We had a record. We had the follow-up to 98.6.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I know what that. Let me see what that record was. Let me see. If I can, Tell Me to My Face. No, that was something else.
No, this was Easy as Pie.
Easy as Pie. I don't know
Easy
that
as
one.
Pie.
Keith did it.
It ended up being flipped over, and they made Easy as Pie the B-side.
And what was the A side?
Something like Sugar Man or something like that was,
okay.
was the name of it.
I
Yeah.
thought Tell Me to My Face was the follow-up to 98.6.
I don't think so.
Why do I know
Maybe-
this? Because I
maybe
sell records. That's how I know it.
Yeah.
Don't Tell a Lie?
There may have been one in between. It was supposed to be the follow-up, and
Maybe it was Don't Tell a Lie or something. I can't remember.
I don't know.
Whatever happened to that guy Keith? What record
I don't
label was he
know.
on?
I don't know. Don't know any of that. I've got the record at home up
I
on the
met
wall.
George Fishoff, who wrote 98.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember him? Did you ever
I
meet
thought
him?
Keith wrote it.
No,
yeah.
George Fishoff wrote it.
Okay.
That was his big thing. Now he's a
Yeah.
piano player.
Yeah.
He was one of those guild guys. I mean, I should tell you, Casey's a vice president of the Songwriters Guild, right?
True.
Right, the
Yes.
Songwriters Guild of America.
Right.
And you've met a lot of people through that, like through the years, like I have. We were talking about before the show all these famous old songwriters all the time.
Well, the great songwriters. We had our whole board was
Who were some of those people?
phenomenal people. George David Weiss.
Yeah, George, I knew him.
The Lion Sleeps Tonight, and
What a Wonderful World.
What a Wonderful World.
Can't
I mean, it seemed like every time we had a board meeting, he had just gotten another major cut on What a Wonderful World.
Right. Wasn't even a hit when it came out. When it came out in 1968 or something, because it wasn't a very wonderful world then.
Billy Harbach was on the thing. I'm trying to remember. Mike Stoller,
Wow.
Lieber Stoller.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I met a bunch of them, and I was just a volunteer.
Yeah,
I met
yeah.
Stoller, a fiddler on the roof, and
Yeah.
Bobby Weinstein and whoever.
Yeah, I know Sheldon was there for a while. The stories that you'd hear at lunch were just tremendous.
Right.
Just really great.
Well,
great
the stories for you. I mean, you've been writing songs forever, right? And when did you start?
For a long
How old
time.
were you when you started?
A long time. I guess when I was actually had records being made and stuff was around 1965.
So that's when you first started writing songs?
Well, I had a couple of things, but yeah.
So you started as a singer, and then you all of a sudden turned into
Oh
a
yeah,
songwriter.
I wanted to play guitar and be like
George
the
Harrison.
Beatles. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was playing already when they came along, so.
Well, this is something that people
guitar.
don't know.
Yeah.
Casey can play any Beatles song. You just have to name it. I Feel Fine. They go, dan, 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 it just goes right into the whole thing. Here Comes the Sun. He's got it down right, too. You got to do it exactly the right way.
I've run into some people who know that stuff a lot better than I do.
Well, you're pretty good. I remember one time I was sitting with you, just named a song. There it goes.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of them.
Well, anyway, let's get to this book here.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. You wrote this book, A Complete Idiot's Guide to the Art of Songwriting. Now, give me the short. Give me the short synopsis of what it tells people.
It tells them what I think about how you go about writing songs and being a songwriter. Just from my experience, I start with a story. When I was first playing and the Beatles came along, and I had the good fortune to get into a band with some older guys who knew a lot more about making records and playing than I did. I had been doing it for a long time, and at that time, the studio we had available to us was a 2-track studio. It was a 1/4-inch tape.
2-track means no overdubs.
No, we could if we put everything on one track and then overdubbed with another, which we did from time to time. But pretty much we went in, and the engineer that worked on in that studio had a little box with 4 pots and a master, and that was it. And so his job, pretty much after placing the microphones and stuff in the studio, was to tell us we were getting ready to record and push play and record at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, and the little red light would come on, and we'd do our stuff, and then if we knew it was a fade at the end, he'd run the master down. But that was about it. And we had been. I discovered early on that if you wrote the song that was going to be recorded, that quite often you got to sing it too if you were in the band. So I started writing right away. And one night we had been doing a lot of recording, and I'd been singing this song of mine, or a couple of them, all night long. And we were leaving, we were going home. We'd record in the middle of the night because that was the cool time. That's when we thought good records were made. It's like after 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're leaving, and as we're walking out through the control room, this engineer stops me. His name was Junior A. Vance, and he stops me and he says, "You know what?" He says, "You almost write good songs," which I didn't take as a compliment. He says, "Has anybody ever told you the rules for writing songs?" And I said, "Rules for writing songs?" This was hysterical as far as I was concerned. I said, no, they never have rules, right? That's good. I like that, Junior. And he said, no, he said, it's true. He said, if you'll just follow these, he said, quite often, he said, that'll be the song that they'll say, hey, leave me a copy of that one, or whatever. And so I said, okay, tell me these rules, just challenging him. And he said, well, you put the title on the most musically emphasized part of the melody, usually the highest notes. And I said, okay, I agree with that. That's fine for me. He said, then just make every line in the song, I like that word just make every line in the song point directly to the title line. And I said, well, that makes perfect sense to me too, I said, is there anything else? He said, well, he said, it's mostly for country music, you understand. He said, but he says, you can only write about a 3-way affair, drinking, or truck driving.
He didn't say anything about a dog?
No. And armed with that, I walked out. And at that time, I used to remember everything I heard. And so it got lodged in my head somewhere. Well, I went off to New York. I wrote there in the sort of Tin Pan Alley style and everything. wrote a lot of things in the Brill Building, the 1650 building. I went over to California. I went back. I worked with Tom Rush. I got introduced to Jackson Browne, James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, and I said, man, look at these songs that these people are doing. I set that as my standard. That's what I was going to try to do. And I wrote all these songs and everything. And I'd gotten cuts in New York, and I went out to Los Angeles and made my album, as I said earlier, and had things being cut off of that, and hung around Warner Brothers when I was there for that first album that I made with Randy Newman and Van Dyke Parks, and the Everly Brothers were there, and it was just Harry Nilsson would come in when we'd be hanging around there and play something that he had just recorded someplace, and we'd all listen to it. And
do you remember any of that?
What?
Do you remember what he played?
A little bit, but anyway, it was really cool to hang around with all those people. But I just soaked up a lot of songwriting stuff, I don't remember now even if you were aiming me this way, but
that's all right. Keep talking.
But I went to A&M Records, and like I said, I got signed because on the strength of my songs, and I really wanted to record, but I got signed there and worked with a lot of people there. Paul Williams was signed to Irving Almo out there, and it was around him. My friend Jeffrey Cominor was out there and making records with Bones Howe and so on and so forth, and he was the king of B-sides. Bones would put his songs on the B-sides of records. There used to be B-sides. There used to be records.
So he can make his 1 cent.
Yeah.
Just divide the 2 cents.
Yeah. And
what was it, 2 cents?
It was 2.6 at some point. It got to be.
Right.
It was 2 cents.
But if you had a co-writer, it'd be 1 cent.
Yeah. You'd get half, and you wouldn't even get 1 cent because the publisher would get the other part. We were
That's right.
We were all signed to publishers at that time, and. Anyway, somewhere along the way, I decided I wanted big-time management, and I went in and found some people who were interested in me, and they were interested in the songs, and they said, you've had a couple of deals, and they haven't really gone as well as we'd like for them to. Before we really go after getting you another record deal, let's see if we can do something with some songs. And I would go into the office and go in and write, or I'd go write places and just check in on Sunset there with them. And one day I went in and they said, "Oh, great!" I'd been working over the weekend, and they said, "Roger Miller's people called, and they're going to come in. They're looking for something for Roger," which I couldn't believe. I mean,
he writes his own songs.
Oh yeah, why?
Right.
But I thought about it, and they said, "Well, what should we play for him?" And I said, "Well," I went through the catalog, and I said, "This one and this one." And they said, "Okay, yeah, that's sort of what we were thinking. Do you have anything new?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got that song. Remember that one we talked about the rewrite on. I took that home over the weekend, and I played the cassette of it, and they listened to it, and they said, yeah, nice song," which doesn't mean anything. That means, what else have you got? And so I said, "Well, there's one about that's based on the guitar lick that I had," and so we listened to that, and they said, "Yeah, that came out really good." Once again, what else have you got is what it means. And I said, "Well, I really think the things from the catalog are the that one and that one are the ones to play." And I said, "Now, if we're through here," I said, "I wrote this song over the weekend." I said, "I had this idea, this chorus came to me, and I realized it was a country song. And what I had done is sat down and I said, I'm going to use Junior Avance's rules for this song, and I'm going to prove he's wrong."
And
he's absolutely wrong.
And that's the one they wanted?
Yeah, and yeah. And so I wrote it as a joke. I just wrote it. I just said, this is just a and I played it, and they said, "Yeah, let's give that to Roger." I said, "No, we can't. You can't do that. It's just a joke." And they said, "Don't tell us." Well, I figured there wasn't any danger that Roger wasn't going to do it.
You know, you remember those things that said send your song poems in?
Yeah,
Remember those things? I did that. I wrote the worst thing I could possibly think of.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it on purpose. I wrote the worst song ever just to send in it to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And the guy saying, "Oh, this is great. We just pay this money for this."
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what. Well, that was a whole different thing. Anyway, you're talking about that. There are rules to songwriting, and this book kind of. I mean, there are
I start off with that story and tell the rest of it, which is that song, which I considered a joke, and Roger wanted to record, and my managers wouldn't let him record it because they said it's a hit. We're going to save it for you. I said I don't want to record the song. But as soon as I recorded it and put it out, it got covered. It's been cut.
What's the name of it?
30-something times. It just keeps getting cut over and over again.
What's the name of it?
A Good Love is Like a Good Song.
Isn't that what on your album?
It is. It's on this album.
It's on your album.
This is the album.
Yeah, okay. It's a Good Love is a good song.
That first one that they saved it for.
Anyway, going through some of these ideas, you have. Let's see, where the core. You talk about different song structure, right? And making memorable melodies. What about that? How do you make a memorable melody?
I just get the guitar and do something until I like the way it sounds.
Like the way it sounds. Okay.
Yeah, I think you listen to. It's like Stephen King says about writing. If you want to write, you have to read. If you want to write music, you have to listen to everything that's there.
The thing about the most important part to me is the art of rewriting.
Right.
Now, tell me about my experience with rewriting is that it never comes out right the first time.
Right.
My way anyway. So tell me about rewriting.
Well, I think that also helps you to not get stuck. You can just get the bare bones of the thing down there. Put anything in there. Put any kind of lyrics you want. It's a lot easier to change something that exists. Once you can stand it up in the corner over there and step back and look at it, you say, wait a minute, that shouldn't be there, when you can hear it in perspective. So the rewriting, and you learn. I think I learned from a lot of publishers and from pitching a lot of songs when we used to do that. I would learn that way because other publishers or producers would offer say, I don't like that part in there, where the mud gets on the people and stuff, and you learn that they don't want to hear that, but then you can set the song out there in front of you, or you can play it. You feel comfortable with it, whatever it is, and you can find the places where it doesn't do what you want it to do.
What's your way of looking at a song through a third eye, through somebody else, as if you didn't write it? What is your way of divorcing yourself from what you wrote and coming in there and say, is this good, is this bad, what needs to be changed? How do you do that?
It's mainly whether I like it or not, but I think I've learned from the years of rejects and successes what people expect to hear, and you learn little things about it. I mean, the business about putting the title on the most musically emphasized notes. Put the title in there more often than anything else, so they walk away with the title.
Well, let's take a quick example.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes, but let's get a quick example of your song "Soon." How did that come about?
Oh, that's a long story.
We'll just get it.
I had Christmas finds her all alone with no call for a Joyce, so she calls his codophone just to hear his voice. Right. And that, to me, I could see a story. I could see a woman who's been dating a married man out of that. That's what I realized it was about. And I had learned at that point, get a title. You got to have a title for your song, And I thought about it, and I came up with Soon, because I'd seen these stories of women dating married men, and the guy keeps saying, "Oh, soon we'll do that."
Okay, how about the other one, "The Cowboy Rides Away" by George Strait? Now, how did that? Where'd that come from?
I had a melody, and I got with Sonny Throckmorton, and he came up with a line, and we worked from that line.
"The Cowboy Rides Away."
Yeah, and we worked from that. That line that he said when the first one we got said what the song had to be.
How about "I Feel Sorry for Anyone Who Isn't Me Tonight"? How'd that one come about?
I wrote it from that idea, from the idea that.
But did you just burst out one day and say, "I feel sorry for anyone who is me tonight"? And that was
No. I'll tell you what it was. Mary Hartman was on at that time,
right.
and one night she was taking uppers, and she says at one point, she says, "Oh, I feel sorry for any girl who isn't me tonight."
Oh, that's how you came. That's pretty
and
good.
I said, I love that idea, and it turned out that it was already in my brain, which I didn't focus on that, but from I think I feel pretty,
Right.
pretty and witty, and I pity any girl who isn't me tonight.
Right.
I didn't remember it from that, but anyway, that just seemed like a great title to me. I think you learn to recognize what is a good
When
title.
you're having a conversation with somebody, all of a sudden they say something to you, and you say, "Should you tell that person that's a good title?" You just say, "Shut up and write it down."
No. That's the Nashville rule. Is you hear something and you say, yeah, good. Oh, hey, I'm going to run to the bathroom for a minute. You go in there and you write it down, and now you put it on your phone.
Here's the book again. I think we got a 1 minute sign, right? This is the book again. It's Idiot's Guide to the Art of Songwriting. Where is this available?
Online,
Amazon?
Amazon's got it. I have some. If people want to write to me,
Where
I'll
else is
sell
it?
you one. They're in all the bookstores.
They're all the bookstores?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I saw one in what is it? Barnes and Noble. I saw one in Barnes
Really?
and Noble and bought it. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so how does it feel being an author rather than a songwriter?
I like it. I'm selling more of these than I am CDs these days.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, well
I
anyway,
like it just fine.
we got to wrap this up, I believe.
Yep.
And my guest here was Casey Kelly, great Nashville songwriter and former recording artist,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
All right, and Vice President of the Songwriters Guild. Right. We'll be back next week with another edition of Mind Your Own Music.
Thank you, Jesse.